Urvashi knew her way around her fort with the help of her maid Shivani, who had delivered her the letter. Urvashi had been able to leave Lord Kali's fort undetected and had now reached hers. Shivani had covered Urvashi's face with a shawl. Kali's men were still looking for her. Guards stood at the front gate, so they decided to enter from the back. Shivani hoisted Urvashi so that she could jump over the wall. Shivani had told Urvashi that all things from their rooms had been kept in the storage room, while the papers and clothes had been burnt. Other personal belongings had been stored. Urvashi tiptoed on the dark corridors of the fort. There was a door ahead for the servants to enter and exit. Surprisingly, the armory didn't have any soldiers on the ground floor, though. When Urvashi did descend to the storage room area, she found two soldiers inside talking. She knew she had to distract them in some way or the other. She crept down and then turned to the nearest wall, carefully peering from the corner. They were chatting about the daily affairs of the disorganized state system. Urvashi sighed. She had to do something. She closed her eyes, thinking about whatever her guru had taught her. If you have no magical object that I have given you, the best thing to do is to act on your own. Trust your judgment. Urvashi nodded to herself, and then she began to cry, clutching her stomach. She fell on the ground. The two guards got alarmed and rushed to her. Oh dear, who is she? Isn't she Vedanta's daughter? Said the other one, confused. How did she? Urvashi had her back to them. Girl, you fine? They came forward. One of them put his hand over her shoulder. At that moment, Urvashi turned, pulled the sword from the soldier's sheath and stabbed him in the stomach. Blood sprayed over her face, which she wiped clean. The other soldier was stunned for a moment before he took out his sword, but then Urvashi kicked his knee. He knelt and groaned. She pointed the sword at his throat, puncturing it slowly. That's for betraying my father. She had always liked the idea of killing people, and the guru had liked her feistiness. She had learnt how to kill in her early days as a trainee, when her guru had taught her quick, specific methods to defend herself in times of crisis. He had wanted to show her that she could use magic for the right reasons, that it will come in handy when she was in danger, and she needed her skills now. She took the storage room keys from the guard's pocket and walked towards it, unlocking it. Finding herself in a tiny room, she began to search for her stuff, hoping it wasn't burned. She had kept it in a turquoise-colored bag made of tweed. Finally, after searching for some time, she found the stuff that belonged to her, including all the dolls she had carved with her knife, along with some charm. Charm was a powder that could be used to hypnotize people. Urvashi knew exactly how she was going to use it. She packed her bag and dangled it on her shoulder. As she made her way out, she knew where she had to go now. Next stop, Lady Durukti was waiting in the same room again, with the same soldier standing outside to protect her. She saw shadows moving on the wall. It was Arjun walking towards his cell. You are back. He had a smile on his emaciated face. He looks beat physically. Arjun was ripped, muscular like a wrestler. The bags under his eyes, though, told a different story, but Durukti was confident that Arjun could have taken Kali in a fight if only Kali hadn't ingested the soma. The soldier stepped back as Arjun continued. You are back, and that means you either have good news or bad news, but at least you have news. I am fulfilling my promise. She was worried. Her hands were clammy, and for some reason her head felt heavy. She began to think about Urvashi. She had vanished in the night, and Durukti had no idea where she was. Hopefully Kali hasn't captured her. Would have known. Perhaps Urvashi had left voluntarily. It was just messing with her mind. After resting for an hour, she had come to meet Arjun. Giving the soma to Arjun was her way of feeling a little less guilty for what she had done in Shambhala. Can you release the others? I can't do that. That would be stupid. It'll turn into a riot. I am giving you this. She handed him the pouch. Use it well. I don't want you to kill Kali. Promise me that you won't. No, I won't. Arjun nodded, keeping the pouch. You know how to ingest it. I have no idea. I will feel worried. I am. Tomorrow you might actually win. She stifled a laugh. And I am betraying my brother. No, you are betraying the king of this city. Durukti knew Kali had to be stopped, otherwise he would make things worse for everyone. And that was when the bells began to ring and the trumpets were blown. Wait, what is going on? Arjun was confused, and then a realization hit him. Someone is escaping. Arjun walked in front and peered out of the window. The window overlooked the field, which was inside the prison. The field was filled with prisoners. They were jumping and beating the guards, escaping from there. Everyone has escaped. Did you do that? No, Durukti was confused. But how? It doesn't matter. You should leave. You are Kali's sister. If they see you anywhere here, they will kill you. Thank you for the stones. He hugged Durukti. Are you escaping too? It's wise to do so, right? Arjun smiled as if he couldn't believe what was happening. He sprinted away into the dark. Drupti stood motionless as Arjun ran away. She had stolen the soma for nothing. There would be no fight now. This was a disaster. She had no idea what was going on and hoped to God that Urvashi didn't have anything to do with it. If so, Drupti was in big trouble. Lord Kali was horrified, thinking about the Red Sea, the red world around him. He was paralyzed, his ears shut down so he couldn't hear anything. He walked the sands of the red earth, touching them slowly, realizing something was wrong with it. It was not sand, it was blood, the blood of his siblings, and he turned when he felt someone touching the nape of his neck. You don't know the truth? What truth? He blurted angrily, pushing and shoving the air as if it would help. There was no sound from the world he was in, but there were voices in his head. The truth about the fire that made you who you are. Kali recalled the fire back when he was at the village taking care of his siblings. Drupti had been young but not as young as the others, and then the fire broke out and he tried to escape, but he couldn't save his siblings. Drupti had escaped with him. He had heard the infants crying. They had said it was a tribal's conflict. You don't know anything. What is the truth? He was panting now. Sweat trickled down his face. The conflict had nothing to do with the fire. That's not what he remembered. What had really happened that night? My subconscious is tricking me. No, I wasn't. There was a crackling laughter, and then hands from the sand grabbed his feet and they began to pull him inside down in the gutters of hell. You? He kept screaming until his mouth was filled with blood and sand, and he witnessed the oblivion, the inevitability. He woke up. Kali was sweating when he saw Coco and Vikoko by his bed. They would never dare to come in the room without his permission if it wasn't urgent. What happened? My lord, the prisoners have escaped, said Coco. Escaped? Kali had dressed himself up. He was walking in the corridor on his way to the prison. Coco and Vikoko trailed behind him. How many prisoners? The count goes up to 200, my lord. 200. That's a disaster. Has everyone escaped? Not all. Some were stopped by the guards, said Vikoko. Kill the stupid prison guards, and there should be round-the-clock surveillance on the streets. Any person with a loincloth around their groin should be shot by an arrow. Take the yaks if you want. Yes, my lord. Coco nodded. Kali was about to reach the prison when he saw the horrible disaster from outside. Partially the prison was on fire while the guards had grabbed some of the prisoners who had tried to escape. The prison had a rocky bricked exterior with large poles and watchtowers. There were barbed wires, serrated fences, and grilled windows. It was a basilisk of a building. How does one escape this fortress? They say the guards helped them escape. Help? We questioned them, but they say they don't remember anything. Kali shook his head. You mean to say they were hypnotized? Vikoko meekly nodded. What the hell is going on? And Kali went inside the prison. Kali was passing down the cells, empty cells, and with each cell his heart raced a bit more. He felt angrier, as each cell represented his failure of not being able to handle this prison. These prisoners, now the people will hate me. They will say that I am worse than Vedanta. Kali's soldiers were behind him. Coco and Vikoko were in front of him when Kali said, take out a petition saying that we are keeping everything under control. All right. How many soldiers do we have? My lord, you have sent 2,000 of your men to the Vanar captain, and the rest of them are stationed at the villages to maintain order. Some of them have been stationed in other cities, so we have 1,000 men. Vikoko explain the entire situation. 1,000? Call the ones who are stationed at the villages to come to the city. These prisoners must be captured. Who knows what atrocities they will commit in the city now that they are free. Kali scratched his head as he thoughtfully mused over the situation. But sir, the village people have been protesting against the rise in tax rates. The soldiers stationed there have been keeping these protests under control, said Coco. Kali sighed. Kill them then. Whoever is protesting, just kill them. In fact, even if one person protests, execute him. We don't want any revolts. We have a major crisis on our hands. Biggest criminals in the city roam the streets, and right now they could be slaughtering and raping the citizens, and according to me that's what should be dealt with first. He finally stopped when he realized that one of the cell doors, even though it was open, was not empty. Curious, he turned to see who was inside. The figure glowed in the shadow of the moonlight being emitted from the grilled window. It was a young boy. He was sitting cross-legged. He had his back to Kali, his wavy black hair glimmering. Kali realized who it was. Turning around, Arjun cracked his knuckles, a smile dancing on his face. Hi there, Kali. Why didn't you escape with your friends? Because I promised you a fight tomorrow. Damn, I will crush you like an ant, Kali said confident. Arjun stood up. He walked towards Kali and looking straight in his eyes, he softly said, we will see. Kali was unnerved, though he didn't show it. There was something in his eyes, a glint of fire. Kali ordered his guards to close the cell doors, but he could see that Arjun hadn't stopped smiling, and for some reason Arjun reminded him of someone. He reminded him of Kalki. Urvashi knew she was in trouble when the criminals turned on her. The only person who was supporting her was a handsome young man by the name of Rudra, who was keeping them in control. They had situated themselves in the armory of Urvashi's old home. They had gone and grabbed the guards, tied them up, and took all the heavy weapons for themselves. For some reason Urvashi did feel triumphant since she had taken her fort back, but it didn't mean things were all right. She had asked two prisoners to dress up as city guards and stand outside, making sure that no one suspected anything, that there were more than 200 prisoners inside the fort, and she was not sure if her father would have approved of the prisoners that she had kept inside to be out here on the same floor that he had walked on. But that didn't matter now. Father is dead and I'm here and I have to take care of the bloody situation. But that didn't mean that just because Urvashi had charmed her way in the prison, hypnotizing the guards to open the cells and promising each prisoner a better life, they would listen to her. Some of them had listened, some of them hadn't, and she had to prove that she was worthy of leading them even though she was just a young girl. They were in the common hall as Urvashi stood at the pedestal quietly listening to Rudra. The sleek-haired man explained to the prisoners in detail, "Men, we are finally free from the tyranny of the wrestling and the pandering of Lord Kali, and now we can do anything." Everyone shouted in jubilation, hooting loudly. "But we should not forget why this happened." Rudra looked at Urvashi. "She is the reason we are here." Some of them grunted and some smiled at her. "She's Vedanta's daughter," Rudra cried out. "Vedanta had kept us in, but she let us out. We should not judge her for what her father did to us, and now we can go and do whatever we want to do." People murmured to themselves when Urvashi whispered to Rudra, "I need to speak to you in private." Rudra nodded, taking Urvashi aside while Harsha tried to handle the situation by making jokes. "What happened? I have not helped you all escape because I liked you all." Rudra stopped smiling. "What do you want from us? Fight and take the throne from Lord Kali. I want you to be mine." Rudra rolled his eyes. "Girl, all of these, they are not someone you can hire. They work on fear, not on money, and they will only work for someone they respect." Urvashi clenched her jaw as Rudra went back to all the prisoners. "Lady Urvashi wants us to join her in the cause to fight and end Lord Kali's reign." The prisoners laughed. "I want to sleep and bed a wench and do a lot of things before I do that," someone else said. "Yeah, true that," Rudra said, Harsha scratching his beard. Urvashi sighed as she came forward, trying to sound as womanly as she could. From the corner of her eye she could see Shivani watching her intently. "I know I am not the ideal person to lead you all. I'm young, but I know one thing: I can give you a better life and I can give you riches and women if you work with me. Lord Kali is weak right now. We should attack him right now and we can take the throne." "What about the soldiers? They'll turn on us," someone from the group cried. "We just need to get rid of Lord Kali. Once we do that, we shall have the support of the soldiers. They follow him out of fear, and if needed she will instill that fear in them when she rules," she thought while clinging to her wooden doll. "And why should we listen to someone who carries a doll?" Urvashi shook her head as she walked down towards the man who had just spoken and plucked his hair. He groaned, grabbing her arm in the process, but Rudra told him to back off. "What was that about?" "I will show you something," Urvashi said. She wrapped the coil of hair around the doll. "You must wonder how can a young girl like me enter and free 200 of you? Think hard." They all narrowed their gazes. "Because I know something that you don't." "Shut up, ho," the man shouted, scratching his hair. "First you pluck my hair and now you say shit." And that is when Urvashi used her hairpin and stabbed the doll. Instantly the man looked down, seeing a wound opening up and spraying blood from his torso until he fell back and contorted in pain. Urvashi pulled the pin and cleaned it, wearing it back to tighten her hair. Everyone gasped. "Guess what?" Urvashi said, glancing at the shocked faces of Rudra, Harsha, and even Shivani. "I know magic be on my good side and you shall have everything be on my bad side," she signaled at the dying prisoner. "You shall die miserably. Do not underestimate me." Everyone went silent, and Urvashi liked it. Oh yes, she did. Kalki found himself in a strange world. It didn't look like Ilavarti. In fact, there was no land, it was only water, and he was in the midst of it, swimming. His mouth opened and the water engulfed him. He grabbed the reefs as he struggled underwater. When something grabbed him, he looked down to see a huge boar who had his tusk around his body, carrying him upwards, swimming towards the surface. And finally Kalki was out under the beating sun. He sighed in relief, his eyes red, clearly frightened. Audial Kalki turned to see the boar swim back inside. "What are you doing here?" A voice called out from the back. Kalki turned. The water was everywhere, covering every land. Only the long, dark trees remained sprawled above the unending waters, almost touching the skies, and the mountains, the hills were barely visible at this sea level. Otherwise, everything was in ruins. Where are you? Kalki tried to float as much as he could, driving his feet down. Kalki lowered his gaze and saw a strange figure underwater. He dove in again. This time he was in control, and he looked at the figure who was speaking to him from beneath. How is he speaking underwater? The figure was tall, daunting, dark-skinned like the cloudy skies. He had a strange box-like helmet around him that was helping him breathe inside, and it was designed in such a way that it looked like a boar's head with conical tusks. A chakra hung from his neck, and a make clung to his belt. He was in a dhoti as well, but it was dark in color. He was barefoot. You cannot speak under here. Let me take you to the land. And with that he began to swim upwards. Perhaps he can speak underwater because of the helmet. It prevents the water from getting inside, creating a breathing space. For him it didn't make sense, though he finally reached a boat which had a small mast. The man climbed over it and helped Kalki up, and behind the man stood the boat that had helped Kalki out of the water. It jumped inside the boat, drying himself by shaking his bulbous body, and then Kalki saw what had happened. The entire land was plunged in a tsunami-like situation, and only the mountains and skies seemed to be safe. Not only that, he also saw boats of different shapes and sizes far away from there. Some ships were there as well. What is this place? He asked the figure, who took out his helmet, revealing a dashing young man with wavy hair that reached his waist. This, my friend, is Ilavanti. He sighed, putting down the bow-shaped helmet as he patted his pet bow. The question is, what are you doing here? Channeling, of course. That's why I'm in a different reality, and this figure, he's just a memory of the past. You are Varaha, Kalki muttered to himself, the third avatar. But weren't you supposed to have a? Then he looked at the helmet. Of course you have questions. Ask. Varaha wrapped his arms around his lean frame as he waited for Kalki to speak. His entire body glistened under the sun, and his hair was dripping water on his back. The boat rocked over the uneven stream of water. I have more questions about this world now. This is all because of Hiranyaksha and Hiryakashipu. They led this world into this, and now like a pirate they have stolen my lady love Bhumi and have escaped through his ship. Pirate. It sounded bad. It's an apocalypse, and I have to stop them and protect Ilavanti from this disaster. But how will one protect a world which is filled with water? According to what Kalki had read, Varaha had used his big tusks to lift the earth from the clutches of the water and free it from its bondages. I am being aided by the. He's a king, of course. That's how it happens. Karma doesn't make you a god. Your deeds do. Varaha right now is just another boatman with a bow, but later on when his journey finishes he'll be termed a god. Will I be too? At that thought Kalki was fascinated. We have found a way to get rid of this, but we have a lot to do. So tell me now, baby face, what is it you want? Baby face? Yeah, come on, baby face. This was the first time he was having an informal discussion with one of the avatars. Lord Govind had been racked with guilt. Lord Narsimha had seemed kind of aloof. Lord Raghav had been kind, but Lord Varaha seemed cool. I'm confused. I want to know how I can use my strength properly. The problem is that we often think strength comes from the muscles. No, it comes from here. He pointed at his head. One receives the truest and purest strength from self-belief. He stood up as the bull licked his legs, busy in his own world, making grunting noises. You have stopped believing in yourself. You feel defeated. You feel hopeless. I see it in your eyes. Lord Kalki nodded. I do feel defeated, but it's not my fault. I was defeated. I lost everyone. I lost Bala. I lost my father. I lost Ratri. And I lost Lakshmi. How can I be the? If I keep losing everyone I love? Varaha felt the pain that Kalki was going through. What do you see around here? Kalki turned to see an endless amount of water. See, this used to be a land. You know, this is my defeat. Varaha watched it like a warrior who had grown weary from personal loss. Perhaps it is necessary for us to fail because it gives us the opportunity to succeed. Without failure we will never learn, and if we don't learn we will never succeed. Now I know how to defeat the two brothers who did this, but I didn't know better previously. He paused, looking at Kalki straight in the eyes. You are afraid of responsibility, and I can see that, because deep down I was afraid too. Now as each waking moment goes by I think of Bhumi and what she would be doing with those monsters. I feel weak. I feel defeated just like you, but you know what keeps me going? Kalki shook his head. The choice that I made of saving her. Lord Varaha smiled. No, of doing the right thing. and in this world if you constantly do it, the right thing, you'll be the strongest person alive. He grabbed Kalki's shoulders, tightening his hands around them. Don't forget, your strength will come if you believe in it. So start believing in yourself, because you'll be committing a crime if you don't. Kalki nodded. Also, how did the boy know that he had to save me? Because I told him to. Kalki laughed. How is that possible? We are capable of so much, you and me. We stop believing, we lose hope, and we forget ourselves. You know who we are? We are avatars chosen by Lord Vishnu to roam the earth and finish evil. That's who we are. And if we disappoint, what is the point of it all? He winked at him, and then his reality dissolved, and he opened his eyes to see himself in the same hut. Everyone was fast asleep. It was dark outside. Kalki walked to the door where two Pishach was standing with their spears looking at him. The Pishach got alarmed, but Kalki held his arms up, trying to show them that he meant no harm. We are capable of so much. What is the point of it all? I told him to do it. Kalki recalled his conversation with Lord Varha. As he closed his eyes, he had forgotten about Shubho, and he had no idea where he was now, and so using all his powers, believing in himself, he let the energy surge inside him. Lord Vishnu has chosen him to serve this realm, and it'll be a crime if he didn't follow it. Shubho,